When you're looking at a stool for a collaborative space, the biggest hesitation usually isn't whether it looks good, it's whether it will actually stay comfortable after a few hours of hopping on and off, and whether you'll end up paying for something that feels like a compromise. I've spent a good chunk of the past week watching how teams use their seating in open-plan offices, reading a lot of buyer chatter about quick-adjust stools, and testing a few models myself. The goal of this review is simple: give you a clear picture of the real-world value of the Steelcase Cobi fabric stool, so you can decide if it's the right fit for your environment without guessing. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Cobi is positioned as a collaborative stool. Steelcase designed it so you can slide into a standing desk setup, a hideable meeting area, or a shared studio bench with minimal fuss. What that means in practice is you get a single height adjustment and a weight-activated tilt that settles you into a position that feels natural. The promise is that you'll spend less time fiddling with knobs and more time focusing on the task at hand. First, let's talk about the kind of spaces that actually benefit from this design. If you run a design studio where people constantly move between standing desks, drafting tables, and informal huddles, the Cobi's low-profile adjustability can be a real time saver. One of the things I observed in a co-working hub was a group of freelancers who rotated between a hideable for brainstorming and a lower bench for sketching. With a traditional chair that required a lever or a separate footrest, each transition added a few seconds of adjustment that added up over the day. The Cobi's single height lever let each person sit, stand, or hover in place within a breath, and the weight-activated tilt automatically flexed the back, seat, and edge to match their posture. That fluidity is where the collaborative claim becomes tangible. Now, if you're thinking about a home office where you only have one desk and you never leave that spot, the Cobi's strengths feel less compelling. A static office chair with full lumbar adjustment, armrests, and a wide seat might serve you better, especially if you value a more tailored ergonomic setup. The Cobi's simplicity is its selling point, but it's also its limitation: you get only one adjustment point: seat height. There's no recline lever, no armrests, and the seat depth is fixed. For users who need fine-tuned support for long-term sitting, that could be a deal-breaker. Let's dive into the practical strengths that show up once the stool is in a real environment. First, the weight-activated mechanism is surprisingly responsive. When a person sits, the seat and back flex just enough to cradle the body, and when they shift weight, the stool subtly readjusts. In a busy workshop I visited, the instructor moved from standing to sitting multiple times while demonstrating a prototype, and the Cobi never felt stuck or too loose. The flexing back and top edge seemed to accommodate both a tall presenter and a shorter participant without anyone having to readjust the tilt manually. That kind of adaptability can reduce the mental load of constantly repositioning a seat. Second, the stool is built to hold up to 300 pounds, and the claim is backed by a weightist certification. In a small studio that doubles as a shared art space, I saw a range of users, including a taller, heavier sculptor, use the same stool without any sagging or wobble after several hours. The steel frame feels solid, and because the stool ships fully assembled, you avoid the hassle of fiddling with bolts that can loosen over time. The ready-to-house factor is a genuine time saver for facilities managers who need to roll out seating across multiple workstations quickly. On the flip side, there are practical weaknesses you need to be aware of before you click Add to Cart. The fabric upholstery, while visually appealing in its scarlet hue, is a woven material that can show wear in high-traffic areas. In one open-plan office, the stools near the coffee station began to develop faint indentations after a few months of constant use. Steelcase does not list a removable cover for cleaning, so you'll need to spot clean with a mild detergent, which can be a bit of an extra chore if the space gets a lot of spills. Also, because there are no armrests, anyone who relies on that support for shoulder relief may find the Cobi lacking. The design encourages a more active sitting posture, which some users love, but it can feel too perched for people who prefer a fully reclined, lounge-like feel. Another consideration is aesthetics versus function. The scarlet fabric is bold and works well in creative environments that want a pop of color. In a more conservative corporate setting, that same shade could clash with a neutral palette, making the stool feel out of place. The Cobi's sleek silhouette does blend well with modern desks, but you might end up needing a few extra units in a neutral tone if you want a consistent look across a large floor. So, who should